Hello, this is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business podcast. Thank you for taking a few moments once again to listen in today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about measuring employee satisfaction. Of course, we just come off a year, and you probably have heard this term, the Great Resignation. A lot of employees have walked away from the places of business where they were at. Some of them have exited the workforce. Many others have transitioned into other areas of work. We know that trying to find good team members, good employees to come on and join our team sometimes it can be very, very difficult. I'm sure that probably many of you are in different types of groups, maybe on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you see these conversations in regards to, what are you doing as far as how are you going about trying to find good employees? I think the best thing that we can do is number one is to make sure that we're doing everything we can for the employees that we currently have. And during this last year, I know on my end, my team actually grew. We actually grew our team by about 3 times, and it was not easy to try to find good people. And the process was longer than it's ever been, more difficult than it's ever been. But one thing I knew as we began to onboard employees is I really wanted to try to create an environment and a culture to where the individuals that worked here, that were investing their time and their careers here, found a place where they were satisfied or fulfilled with their work. And this does not come by accident. You have to be very, very purposeful. Now, I know that and I think my employees would attest to this, that we have not come anywhere close to ultimately where we want it to be. But I know that for all of us here, we spent a lot of time just kind of working through, how can we create an environment to where we enjoy coming into work. Of course, everyone here loves what they do, but how can we create an environment where not only are we doing what we enjoy doing, but we enjoy working together, we understand the direction that we're trying to go, and really try to create a culture that includes very much one of fulfillment. So how do we go about doing this? A few statistics that I had run across this last week while studying and preparing for this podcast. First statistic I read is less than 20% of employees feel their leaders communicate well. And that's kind of interesting, I think. I know that for myself, and I record podcasts, but I struggle to communicate well. And with my team, we have team meetings, and we try to get together and we have a conversation. I have one-on-one conversations with our team members, and it is something that really takes a lot of work. And how do we communicate well? Think about in politics. Think of our recent presidents that we've had. Some of them immediately you can think that they communicated well. Maybe didn't like what they said or how they said it, but they did communicate well. Then there are others who don't communicate well. They get up there and they're a little bit incoherent and they're difficult to understand. And when they don't communicate well, they become more difficult to follow. And it's just kind of one of those things, okay, where are you coming from? Where are you trying to take us? What are you expecting from me? And if you aren't communicating those well, then the team members that you have, they're just simply going to have a difficult time following. They're not going to know where you're at, where you're coming from, what you're expecting from them. And so learn and work as a business owner, whether you own a business, maybe you're managing or you're leading people inside of the business, work on communicating and improving your communication and communicating in a way that resonates with the individuals that you are speaking to. So statistics tell us 80% simply feel that the leaders in their business don't communicate well. So if we're going to be successful in finding and retaining good talent, I think the first thing we need to do is to learn how to communicate well. Secondly, less than 20% of employees feel their leaders provide enthusiasm. And this is kind of interesting that to provide enthusiasm. So, of course, some people, they just come in, they just do their work and they go home, and you're simply just paying for that level of employee. But I think if you're really getting to a place to where you're looking for and you're trying to retain good talent in key positions in your business, you want to create an environment to where there's a lot of enthusiasm. And that's really going to come from us as the owners in our business, that we really have to come in motivated, even may not necessarily feel like it, and really just try to bring the energy into the room, into the rooms that we work each and every day. Now, this becomes a little bit more difficult if we're working in a remote environment. So if you have remote team members, this is something that's going to take a little bit more work. But I know that coming in here, our team prefers to work in office. So come in here and it's one of those things that we have to be very purposeful. Once again, not just to communicate well, but also to provide a lot of enthusiasm. And to provide motivation and provide I think really a fun place to work comes into play there as well. Next, less than 25% of employees feel their leaders measure performance in a way that motivates them. I know I've been in rooms and I've gone to masterminds through the years, and people talk about expectations from their team members. And a lot of times they're measuring results that kind of affect the bottom line, or maybe measure results as it relates to sales and this type of thing. And sometimes, you're measuring those things, and of course you do need to measure those things. But are you measuring different? Let's kind of turn this around. Are you? I think a lot of these types of measurements, when it comes to motivating employees, really has to do with them evaluating us as the business owner or as the manager, as the leader inside of the business. And so if we're really going to try to find those metrics, and this is going to require a lot of communication with our team members, but find those metrics to find out whether or not that we as the business owners, as the leaders inside of our business, if we are effectively motivating our people. Now, sometimes we think that motivation comes from pay raises. An interesting statistic, I read this last week, that the average employee almost completely loses all sense of additional satisfaction or happiness in a job once they start earning over about $75,000 a year. So if you're thinking about a lower level employee, it can provide a lot of kind of additional satisfaction or happiness when you give them a pay raise. And, so that kind of really helps motivate them. But once an employee starts to get to the point to where they're starting to make a little bit more, there's a real kind of diminishing return there. The additional money isn't as important to them as other factors. So it really becomes measuring and trying to figure out what are those other factors with your team members that are going to motivate them. And I think I'll talk about a couple of those here in just a moment. So when we talk about KPIs as it relates to measuring for satisfaction inside of our business, there are a few different areas I think we need to look at. First of all, employee fulfillment or satisfaction should be measured by asking employees how satisfied they are with the current workplace. How well does the workplace meet your expectations, and how close is the workplace that you happen to come in and invest your time in every day ideal? So trying to determine what does that ideal workplace look like for you? So for some of your team members, it may be remote working. For other of your team members, it may be on site. I know at the beginning of the pandemic in early 2020, we had offered for our team members here to go home and to work remotely. Now, most of our employees here all work within, I would say, probably 25, 30 miles or so from the office, and we're just outside of Chicago in Northwest Indiana. And I know for one of my team members, she went home after a couple of days. She texted me. She's like, "Josh, can I come back into the office?" And she preferred to work in office. And to me, I kind of I appreciated that. I think it was kind of like, okay, we've created a culture, a place that's just fun to work, that she preferred to come in and work and be amongst the team members. But having that dialogue with your team members, what does the ideal workplace look like for you? And then do what you can as a business owner to provide that for your team members. So next, factors that impact satisfaction are opportunity, mission, and values, rewards and recognition, organizational structure, leadership style and skills, and business competitiveness. So let's kind of break that down just a little bit. So when we think of satisfaction, as I mentioned, once an employee starts to earn more, that additional satisfaction or happiness does not come through pay. So what are some other areas that you can look at? First of all is to maybe look at other opportunities that you may be able to give to that team member. So we can think of, I mentioned rewards and recognition, and we can acknowledge them if that may be kind of I would say a love language or something that they appreciate. But for many times, a team member wants to know that there are other opportunities for them. And that doesn't always necessarily mean a promotion. But maybe there are other areas in the business they want to learn. Maybe they want to acquire additional type of knowledge so they can be more effective in helping or assisting the clients that you serve. So, but once again, let's go back to communicating and having that dialogue with your team members. What sort of opportunities could you provide for them? Maybe it's sending them off someplace and allowing them to go to a place to where they can learn. Maybe it is a mastermind or a seminar or something very purposeful to where you're developing your team members to where they can have additional satisfaction in their workplace. Understanding what their mission and values are. Think about their businesses out there, and they publicly promote this, that they find different areas. Maybe it's a nonprofit. Maybe it's some sort of a service to the community that their team members really happen to get passionate about. So then the corporation come alongside them, and maybe they do something together as a team, or maybe the business goes and they contribute to different sort of nonprofits or to events or to purposes or causes that the team members care about, and that brings a lot of additional satisfaction to the employees. The organizational structure is your structure one that really provides an environment to where it's enjoyable and satisfying for your people to work. What about your leadership style? And look at the way that you're leading. So I think this is one area where we have to be very introspective. We have to look at ourselves and saying, how am I leading? If you're the type of leader that micromanages and you're hovering over your employees, don't expect to have a culture to where people just love coming into work and they're enthusiastic and employees are going to find themselves fulfilled. To provide the enough of the framework there from an education end, from a development end, to where they can do their jobs and do it effectively, but don't be constantly micromanaging. Otherwise, you're not going to have an environment to where people are going to feel fulfilled in their work. And then are you investing in their skill development? And to allow for them to continue to learn and become more effective in the seat that you have them sitting in. And so all of these come into play as it relates to employee fulfillment. Invest in employees in a way that engages them. So find ways to invest in your team members that engages them. This can go everywhere from your meetings. So if your team member, if you create a culture to where the dialogue can be very free in team meetings, I think this is very helpful. And I know we've tried to create a workplace here, both internally and also working with our clients and our vendors, to ones that we're very transparent, we're very direct, but we're also very compassionate in the way that we communicate. And so it's kind of one of those things that the employees feel very free to be able to be open about any sort of concerns that they may have, and whether it's from help from another team member, maybe that they're performing well or they aren't performing well, even back and forth as far as even with me as the business owner. I like it when when a team member comes and says, "Josh, you're not performing up to our expectations in your leadership style, in the way that you're leading. You're not leading effectively." And guess what? I appreciate that, because then guess what? I know I don't have to wonder and worry about whether or not we're going to be able to create an environment to where to where an employee will feel satisfied or fulfilled, because guess what? They feel free and they don't feel threatened to be able to communicate with myself, with each other inside of the business. That way we can improve together as a team and develop together as a team. So put people in a place where their skills meet purposeful experiences and relationships. And so to be able to, if they're a type of a team member that really wants to be in a place to where they can cultivate good relationships, then put them there. I know for our team members here, for many of them, they really truly enjoy engaging with certain of our clients. And if they have a particular client that they want to work with, to be able to allow them to do that. And many times it's been a situation to where they've cultivated friendships. They've gone literally to events and other venues across the U.S. to where they've been at, and allow for those relationships to build. That's become very purposeful and meaningful to them. Others, they just prefer to sit behind a screen and not really want to have that dialogue. Allow for that as well. To whatever, allow for them to be put into a place to where if they want to build meaningful relationships, they can. If they prefer not to, that they don't. So kind of understanding what is their skill set, what really does provide fulfillment for them, provide satisfaction for them in the workplace, and try to do the best you can to be able to create that. So allow for a place to where their emotional paradigm, their purpose, and their knowledge or their skill set meets. So if you can find the place to where those three areas meet and allow for that person to not just sit in that seat, but also to grow in that seat, you're going to have an employee that in all probability isn't going to leave you. that they're going to enjoy where they're at, provided all those foundational elements are there. You're providing for them in a way that that they need to be provided for, and I'm talking about financially with benefits, things of that nature, but also a place to where they can use their skill set. A place to where they truly just enjoy doing what they do, and they feel like their purpose is being met as well. And so lastly is our approach as a business owner or as a leader inside of our business. So to kind of not necessarily always just kind of operate as a boss or as a manager, thinking about that we're constantly instructing or informing or even just kind of general training, but we go beyond that and really almost become a coach many times for our team members. To have a little bit of a different way of approaching our management style and becoming a little bit more like a coach. And you may or may not. I know I do. I have a coach, and we get on calls every week or two, and he's just not simply instructing or informing. What he does for me is he provides a lot of feedback. I know that there's a lot of care there. There's a lot of purposeful investment in me, and I think as a business owner, as a leader, that we should do this also for our team members to truly provide effective and informative and helpful feedback. But also it comes from a position of compassion and care. We truly care about them. We truly want them to win as well inside of our work environment. And then also being very purposeful in our development, to develop them as team members in a way that they want to be developed, and also in a way that is going to help the business as a whole. And so if we can find those sweet spots, I know I kind of gave a lot of information here, but once again, just kind of going back to, for each of our team members, finding a place to where kind of their emotional paradigm, their purpose, and their knowledge of their skill set meets. And if you can find that for each one of your team members, you're going to find that you're going to have a place to where your employees are going to feel very satisfied and fulfilled in the place that they work. This is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business podcast. Hopefully this particular podcast brought you value. If it did, and you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Have a wonderful day.